Good afternoon, Hoosiers. Thank you for joining us today to get some updates from Dr. Dan and from Dr. Box and others that may be called upon. Let me just say here at the outset before I do kick it over to Dr. Box that Indiana is largely holding steady. That's a good thing on our four principles. You will take a deeper dive into each of those respective quadrants, if you will. But having said that, we have seen somewhat of an uptick in our daily positivity rate. That's something that we track very closely. It was up slightly, but not to the extent that we've seen in some other states around the country and even some very close neighboring states to us. Although there were 2 days, I guess, back-to-back last week, within the last week, where we were over 500 positive tests statewide. So that was something else that we looked at, again, back to that positivity rate. And we've seen a slight or an uptick, an increase in our hospitalization rate, which is another thing that we're paying very, very close attention to. But again, not to the extent that it has threatened our overall capacity to care for those who are in need. So that said, all in all, we are managing our way through this, which has been the goal from the very outset. Folks have noted and called in other states around the country that are shaded a different color, maybe redder than we are, and each for different reasons, I suspect, but they're not experiencing the same results, and we can maybe get into that as well later on in the hour. But it's just fact that other states, the majority of them, have seen an increase, and we pay attention to what happens around us, not just inside our state, but around us. And some states, as I alluded to, are experiencing surges, or in some cases, resurges, so to speak. The nationwide positive cases collectively are at a peak level, primarily in some certain areas, but again, across the whole country. And so that just underscores the fact that what we've said every week, all of us, that this virus is on the prowl. And in some places, it's gaining momentum. It's not slowing down. That spread is not slowing down. It's just doing the opposite. And that's why you see a number of states that are actually, even though they've maybe reopened recently, they're now going back and closing some of those facilities or closing parts of their economy. We don't want to find ourselves in that situation. And so understanding that July 4th is right around the corner, where we celebrate our independence, we wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page going into this weekend as we were looking to go from stage 4 to stage 5. I'll just say, having prefaced this, knowing all of the information that we're taking into account, knowing that a date doesn't drive us, but the data does, we are prepared over the next 2 weeks leading up to July 18th to go to stage 4.5, which means much will stay the same over the next 2 weeks. Some things will change, especially to get general about it, indoor, outdoor activity. We just have to accept the fact, more than recognize it, but accept it, that again, this virus is on the prowl, and it is moving. And it's moving even within our borders in different counties in our state, different positivity rates. And we are living on virus time, so to speak. And so we're taking that into account. All we try to control is what we can control, our own action, our own behavior, our own conduct. We know that there are things that we can do to slow the spread, especially as we await therapeutics and a vaccine. But the volatility that we see, even in some areas of our own state, but especially around the country and especially around our own borders, is of concern. And that's what's given us pause to push pause in some areas. And so 53, I think, Rachel, 53 press conferences later, we will be back next Wednesday. You heard it here. I hope, well, I'll be back. I'm hoping you'll be back. We'll be back here at 2:30, same time, same channel. We want to make sure that we're providing you the updates, what occurs over the next 7 to 14 days. So we didn't take this lightly. We evaluated it at every angle that we knew. Now, so what does that mean? And we'll all get more into this, but just kind of on the surface, stage 4.5 means that our capacities, for the most part, will stay at the same level, stay at the place where they are today. But we will give the green light or the green flag to mostly outdoor activities, events that Hoosiers are going to especially enjoy, I think, coming up this weekend and this time of the year. Just as an aside, it was Dr. Dan that you shared with me some preliminary research on the spread of COVID outbreaks around the country, that the risk of transmission is up to 19 times less when outdoors compared to indoor activity. And that's true and supported by our own experience here. And when you look at where our large numbers were, or our surges were, certainly they were indoor type activities. And so we took that into account. So if you're a local parade, or if you're a fireworks show this weekend, as I know there are some planned around the state of Indiana, just be properly distanced. You have the ability to do that. And mask up. When you get into close quarters, this is how it spreads. We just know this. And we can take those precautions, and folks can have a good celebration outdoors. So again, capacity would be on the limits for different businesses and entities that were opened up in stage 4 are holding steady at that same level where we are as we sit here today. That includes restaurants, that includes bars, nightclubs, entertainment, cultural facilities, event venues, bowling alleys, on and on. This is all on our Back on Track plan that can be pulled off the web. So that 250 number stays 250 for the next 2 weeks, leading up to July 18th. But again, we'll be back here Wednesday, and then obviously providing updates before the 18th as well in that second week. Personal services and gyms, fitness centers continue their operations, again, at the same level as we sit here today. But not to repeat myself, but fairs and festivals, similar events, they're going to move forward as long as they make the provisions on the ground to do it safely. And conventions may resume as long as they adhere to previous guidance that is, again, on that Back on Track. Everything is compiled in one spot that we've provided for single site and multiple site events and venues. Again, I would just encourage everyone to go to the Back on Track, because we've extended this, not gone to 5 for the most part, but 4.5. And lastly, just a little commentary here in leading up this past week, as we were all discussing this day in and day out, wanting to be safe and not sorry, wanting not to find ourselves looking back thinking, you know, our gut told us to do this. And we're talking about the new normal that we find ourselves in, this uncertainty, this area of uncertainty.